Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Cassie. Shout out to Spencer. Shout out to Victoria. Thank you for being here. Leave a like if you enjoy the shout outs. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Cassie. Shout out to Spencer. Shout out to Victoria. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Blue. Shout out to Christy. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing? Shout out to Michael. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Gannon. Shout out to Tamia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Sadie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Regina. Shout out to Indy. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Shout out to Michelle. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Leo. Shout out to Gwen. Shout out to Micaiah. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Nani. Shout out to Ethan. Shout out to Annalie. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Beam. Shout out to Ian. Shout out to Victoria. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Randy. Shout out to Jaina. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Brianna. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Shamira. Oh no, Shamira, sorry. Shamira. Shout out to Autumn. Shout out to Melissa. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Maple. Maple, thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Liv. Shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Nevea. Shout out to Kimoya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Antonella. Thank you, Thomas. Shout out to Yoon Jean. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you for subscribing. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Shout out to Yudi. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Hannah. Shout out to Patricia. Shout out to Kaylin. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Allison. Shout out to Thomas. Shout out to Evangeline. Shout out to Francisco. Shout out to Lee. Shout out to Sherry. Oh no, was it Cherry or Sherry? Oops. Was it Cherry or Sherry? I forgot. Shout out to Geneva. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Mariah. Oh, it was Cherry. Okay. Thank you. I was confused. I thought I spelled it wrong. Shout out to Grayson. Shout out to Jack Jack. Shout out to Moth. Shout out to Luana. Shout out to Stella. Shout out to Paris. Shout out to Bella. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Sarwin. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Michaela. Shout out to Octavio. Shout out to Cassidy. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Summer. Shout out to Jaylet. Shout out to Tavia, or Tavia, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to, oh, Octavio, sorry. Thank you for letting me know. Shout out to Lee. No. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Chrissy. Shout out to Abrielle. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Mitsley. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Claudia. Shout out to Patrell. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Shout out to Analia. Shout out to Jewel. Shout out to Kaylin. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Dakota. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Gael. Shout out to Kiki. Shout out to Bo. Shout out to Luke. Shout out to Ambrosia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Julie. Shout out to Luke. Oh, I already got Luke right here. Shout out to Luke. Shout out to Ricky. Shout out to Danny. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Judah. Shout out to Zyla, or Zayla. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Elizabeth. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Braylee. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Isla. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to X Gilded. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Emery. Shout out to Coco. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Julie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Gloria. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Agnes. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Shout out to Jacob. Happy birthday. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Elise. Shout out to Theo. Shout out to Shams. Shout out to Ashton. Shout out to Eliza. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Let's try to get to 100 likes. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Old Boys. Shout out to Lilia. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Gabby. Shout out to Luke. Shout out to Andrea. Give me 1 second. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Chloe. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Feeble. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Aloha. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Caleb. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Brooke. Shout out to Kaden. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Tamara. Shout out to Anthony. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Fantasy. Shout out to Belen. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Richard. Shout out to Hadley. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Willow. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Robert. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lauren. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Blackie. Shout out to Lauren. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Nancy. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Millie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Dominic Mysterio. Oh, how do you spell Mysterio? Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to McKenna. Shout out to Leo. Shout out to Larissa. Shout out to Bella. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Zeke. Shout out to Musfira. Shout out to Anya. Shout out to Julia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jane. Shout out to Phoebe. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Talia. Happy birthday. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Zucchini. Thank you for subscribing. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my live stream. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Gabe. Shout out to Eva. Shout out to Zena. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Joseph. Shout out to Aileen. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Rosalind. Or Rosalind. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Athena. Shout out to Kevin. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my shout outs. Shout out to Mishu. Shout out to Ivy. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Kira. Shout out to Burbaloni. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Oh no, I forgot how to spell it. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Valerie. Shout out to Arthur. Shout out to Tongue. Shout out to Annabella. Shout out to Hazley. Shout out to Macy. Whoops, I messed up. Shout out to Kendall. Shout out to Haru. Shout out to Peyton. Shout out to Todorki. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Juliana. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Penelope. Leave a like. We're almost at 100 likes. Only 6 likes away. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Ellen. Shout out to Samira. Shout out to Tressie. Shout out to Yumi. Shout out to Nora. Shout out to Kenji. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Andy. Shout out to Alani. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to Mel. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to It's Your Music Boy Joe or Josiah. Thank you. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. We're almost at 100 likes. Only 4 more likes. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Lynn. Shout out to Avery. Shout out to Waylon. Shout out to Dara. Shout out to Yunche. Thank you for 100 likes. Shout out to Ashlyn. Shout out to Oopsie Daisy. Shout out to Cherry. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jolie. Shout out to Louisa. Shout out to Paris. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Tatiana. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Bailey. Shout out to April. Shout out to Colton. Shout out to Natasha. Shout out to Penelope. Shout out to Mary or Mari. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kiri. Shout out to Prince. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Cuvan. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Dorsa. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lennox. Yunjin, I think I did write your name. Where is it? I'm trying to look for it. I think I wrote it in the other page, but you can write your name again. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Alani. Shout out to McKenna. Shout out to Stella. Shout out to these people. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. On to the next page. Thank you for being here. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out as well. Shout out to Taylor. I hope you feel better soon. Shout out to Lily Ann. Shout out to Tony. Shout out to Stella. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Mary, or Mari, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Channel or Chanel. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Chanel. Shout out to Livy. Shout out to Aisha. Shout out to Taliana. Shout out to Nico. Shout out to Olympia. Shout out to Gabe. Shout out to Michael. Shout out to Mimi. Shout out to Bonnie. Shout out to Kashaf. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Xavion. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Baron. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Cicely. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Penny. Shout out to Cora. Shout out to Ahmed. Shout out to Asheen. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Nusrat. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Neela or Nayla. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Paige. Shout out to Michaela. Shout out to Palmyra. Shout out to Kendall. Shout out to Marley. Shout out to Luna. Shout out to Ariane. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Phoenix. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Valeria. Shout out to Yari. Shout out to Merlin. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Vidal. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Madison. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Kay. Shout out to Kendra. Shout out to Brielle. Shout out to Liz. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Kayana. Kayana, sorry. Thank you for showing me how to write your name and pronounce your name. Kayana. Shout out to Grace. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Kinley. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Pamela. Shout out to Marissa. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Emily. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Violet. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Emilio. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Fernanda. Shout out to Janet. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Cindy. Shout out to Konu. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ariella. Shout out to Jordan. Shout out to Maddie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sawyer. Shout out to Journey. Thank you for subscribing. I already did yellow. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Heidi. Thank you for subscribing. Or Haiti. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Hanny. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Wafa. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Nicoletta. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my live stream. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Nanda. Shout out to Shariah. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Siva. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Alexia. Shout out to Brianna. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Princess. Shout out to Celeste. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Jenny or Jen. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Janella. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Alexia. Sorry I messed up. I forgot the H. Shout out to Cheyenne. Shout out to Alexander. Shout out to Kyla. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Piper. Shout out to Kira. Shout out to Kamya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Or Kamaya. Sorry. Shout out to Connie. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Savader. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Prisha or Prisha. Shout out to Enzi. Shout out to Shani. Shout out to Lisette. Shout out to Olivia. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Shout out to Valeria. Shout out to Jersey. Shout out to Emma. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Felix. Shout out to Noku Bonga. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Miriam. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. Also subscribe to my channel if you enjoy the shout outs. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out as well. On to the next page. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Hadia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Rosa. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Ness. Shout out to Joanna. Shout out to Mariana. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Jasia or Jasia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Araya. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Alana. Shout out to Abid. Shout out to Michelle. Shout out to Sharpelia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Savannah. Shout out to Damaya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Kipper. Shout out to Odin. Shout out to Luis. Shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Kylie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Presley. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Autumn. Shout out to Juliet. Shout out to Hayla. Shout out to Abigail. Shout out to Daisy. Shout out to is it Jazz? Thank you for subscribing. Or is it Ennet? Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Augie. Shout out to West. Shout out to Jaslyn. Shout out to Annie. Like like and subscribe if you like my content. Shout out to Narella. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Mandy. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Sandy. Shout out to Summer. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Yasmin. Shout out to Jaskirat. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lorelai. Shout out to Uma. Shout out to Dixie. Shout out to McKenna. Shout out to Jazz Sandu. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for 200 likes. Shout out to Shyla. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Maylin. Shout out to Candace. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Monica. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Janaya. Shout out to Janaya. Oh, I just put Janaya. Shout out to Arissa. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Emiliano. Shout out to Juliet. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Hamza. Shout out to Maya. Thank you for subscribing. Give me 1 second. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Bella. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Miriam. Give me a few seconds, sorry. Shout out to Silas. Shout out to Leo. Shout out to Natalie. Shout out to Kane. Shout out to Janica. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Leela. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Liam. Shout out to Valeria. Shout out to Braylon. Shout out to Jasmine. Oh, Jasmine, I got you. Shout out to Penelope. Shout out to Yanel. Shout out to Saiji. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sophia. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my content and my shout outs. Also check out my channel. I post other content. I hope you can support that as well. Shout out to Emmeline or Emmeline. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Mariah. Shout out to Kyra or Kira. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Shagun. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Ava. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lila. Shout out to Danielle. Shout out to Bowen. Shout out to Liziani. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Alice. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Wyatt. Shout out to Easton. Shout out to Daniela. Okay. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to DJ. Shout out to Savannah. Shout out to Bree. Thank you for subscribing. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Moises. Shout out to Tate. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Weston. Shout out to Alec. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to these people. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my shout outs. Also check out my channel. I post other content. Thank you for being here. On to the next page. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Imran. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Addison. Shout out to Kate. Or what's your name? Kate. I hope I spelled that correctly. Shout out to Mana. Or Mana. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Tate. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Liana. Shout out to Callie or Kaylee. Shout out to Avery. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Lucas. Shout out to Kira. Shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Ace. Shout out to Aizely. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Rylan. Shout out to Madeline. Shout out to Kaylee Cabral. Shout out to Yasua. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Cedar. Shout out to America. Shout out to Hallie. Shout out to Zaina. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Noel. Shout out to Harley. Shout out to Manasa. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Van. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my shout outs. Shout out to Mia Sanchez. Shout out to Near. Shout out to Dana. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Adriana. Shout out to Thesu or Thesu. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Zoe. What is this? Zolia? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Cat's Eye. Shout out to Joshua. Shout out to Dia. Shout out to Yunche. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my shout outs. Shout out to Melina. Shout out to Cadence. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Kanao. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Clarice. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Clarice. Shout out to Jessie. Shout out to Bree or Bri. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Ridley. Shout out to Sabrine. Shout out to Arabella. Shout out to Angie. Shout out to Matthias. Shout out to Sabrine. Sabrine, I don't know. I'm so sorry if I don't know how to spell your name. Sabrine. Shout out to Rubina. Shout out to Alicia. Shout out to Ariana. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my shout outs. Oh, sorry. Sabrine, can you show me how you spell your name? I don't know if I spelled it right. Shout out to Luana. Shout out to Janessa. Shout out to Sybil. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sabrina. Shout out to Sanji. Shout out to Isaac Sanchez. Shout out to Laura. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Sabrina. Shout out to Wyatt. Shout out to Vivi. Shout out to Janelli. Shout out to Rosa. Shout out to CDG. Shout out to Andrea. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Shout out to Briley. Shout out to Stray Kids. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to April. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Alejandra. Shout out to Esme. Excuse me. Shout out to Juan. Shout out to Gail. Shout out to Nathan. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying my shout outs. Shout out to Willow. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Patience. Shout out to Alondra. Shout out to Juana. Shout out to Marley. Shout out to Kai Kai. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sophia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Mallory. Garcia. Shout out to Malika. I got you, Kai Kai, right here. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Nestor. Shout out to Cora. Shout out to Anady. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Rajani. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Hassan. Shout out to Alina. Thank you for subscribing. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kira. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to my Tasha. Shout out to Trina. Shout out to Charisse. Shout out to Yunche. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ruby. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Braylon. I'm gonna have to put Braylon over here so that your name fits. Braylon. Shout out to Parsa. Shout out to Athena. Shout out to Aaliyah Zara. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Aaliyah Zara. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Ruben. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Janika. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to these people. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying my content and if you enjoy my shout outs. Thank you for being here. On to the next page. Shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Abigail. Shout out to Maylin. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jeremiah. Shout out to Sweetie. Shout out to Lee Sally. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sophia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Carly. Shout out to Cooker. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Janika. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Jason. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Giuliani. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Teresa. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Michaela. Sorry, Michaela. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Michaela. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Willie Angeli. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Asma. Shout out to Areli. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Brianna. Thank you for subscribing. Leave a like. We're almost at 300 likes. Shout out to Gabriel. Shout out to Caitlin. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Gael. Shout out to Clarice. Shout out to Blake. Shout out to Alana. Shout out to Leslie. Oh, I spelled your name wrong. Let me write your name again. Shout out to Leslie. Shout out to Asher. Shout out to Gabriella. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Jessie. Shout out to Durble. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Jerome. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Charisse. Shout out to Joy. Shout out to Snea. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Rosalind. Shout out to Esther. Thank you for subscribing. Also, thank you for the little hearts that I see on the screen. Shout out to Imran. Shout out to Adeline. Like and subscribe. I hope you enjoy the shout outs. Shout out to Arya. Shout out to Cassandra. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Eleni. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Rubina. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Antonio. Shout out to Avantika. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Beverly. Shout out to Amara. Shout out to Angela. Thank you for subscribing. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. Shout out to Zena. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Yasmani. Shout out to Kendra. Shout out to Shayna. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Amara. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to London. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Angela. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lilo. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Kresha. Shout out to Paige. Shout out to Cassie. Shout out to Kristen. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Mazabin. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Esmeralda. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sunflower. Shout out to Razild. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Razild. Shout out to Anoop. Shout out to Kaylin. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Samara. Shout out to Serenity. I have you right here. You're right here. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Gianna. Shout out to Paris. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Sunzi. Shout out to Ruth. Shout out to Adelea. Shout out to Maverick. Shout out to Ethan. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. We're almost at 300 likes. Shout out to Abigail. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Alessia. Shout out to Heidi or Heidi. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Kangle. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lavinia. Shout out to Maria. Shout out to Alexandra. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Jay Sri Ram. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Verna. Only 7 likes away from 300 likes. Shout out to Andres. Shout out to Godwin. Shout out to Cynthia. Shout out to Addie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Rumi. Shout out to Lachey. Lachey. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Eleni. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Ryan. Shout out to Eloise. Shout out to Aliana. Shout out to these people. Thank you for 300 likes. Also, thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe so you know when I'm going to live stream next. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time to write your name out. I will see you all in the next live stream. I might live stream later today, if not tomorrow. Have a great night or have a great day. Take care. Bye.